Do you feel like your partner has no interest in you or what you're doing in your day or what interests you? So, this question actually comes from a comment that we received on one of our previous episodes. And that episode was, so you can check it out, it was a really good one, 6 signs you are in a relationship with a narcissist. So we want to talk about this because do you feel like when your partner comes home that you feel interested in them and their day and you ask them questions and you talk to them and you engage with them, but they don't tend to ask you questions and if you don't bring stuff up, they don't bring stuff up. They don't ask. They don't seem interested at all in you or your day or what lights you up or excites you or how you're feeling. Let's talk about this. Rain, take it over.
All right. So what's interesting about this is it usually goes unnoticed. And yet it goes unnoticed to our conscious mind, but it doesn't go unnoticed to our subconscious mind. So what happens is internally, we start to build up frustration and resentment. And at the same time of building up frustration and resentment, we also start feeling a lack of like, there's something wrong with me, right? Like I'm not that interesting. Then I'm not that interesting actually becomes the mantra within, right? I need to liven myself up. I need to change topics. Maybe these are not the right topics. And a lot of times you will notice that without you consciously being aware, you're invested in the topics that interest them. You know, if you're not into sports, you'll start liking sports. If you're not if you feel that whatever your job is, even if it could be the best job in the world, it's not as important as theirs. So you start to invest yourself in what they do. You ask them. So now you have so much information about their career, what they did during their day, how they're feeling, who upset them, and a lot of times they have a lot of victim stories like, my colleague did this and this. And nobody ever sees my worth or nobody ever makes me feel better or something. Somehow they're like a victim of their life somehow, or they blame something or some way. So you're really invested in them. And yet in return, you don't feel they're that invested in you. However, you're so unaware of it because a lot of times in your life, you have been the investor for other people's time, for other people's stories. So you don't really notice it's such a big deal because you already have a thing that I'm not that interesting, right? You already have that belief already kind of exists within you. So when you're with that narcissist, especially coverts really hardly ever ask about your day. Like that's impossible. Well, maybe they can. It depends what state of mind you're in, what part of the cycle you're in. But in general, they're not that invested. So what happens is you start to feel, what does it mean that somebody's not invested or interested in how I am? This is kind of how it looks like. You're like, oh my God, I went and saw my friends today and it was really cool. And we spoke about this and we did this and da 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 da. But the person kind of glazes over a little bit, or they walk off, or they get busy doing something else. And you're just left there feeling that somebody hasn't paid attention, right? Somebody hasn't paid attention. So I'll give an example of my life. So I would be really excited. I just saw friends. I got this really cool insight. They shared a book with me that I was really interested in, that I thought my partner would be interested in. And I go home and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like usually an excitable person. I'm like, oh my God, like, oh, can you imagine like today I saw my friends and there's more of like a, they're not dissing you, but they're not interested. And it's such a faint line that your body feels it inside, but you're consciously unaware. You're like, well, that's just the way they are. They don't sit and give me the attention I deserve, right? They'll be busy doing something and you brush it off all the time. But then you start to notice this happens in every aspect of your life where this happens. And you will also notice that maybe you have asked for that attention. So you ask for that attention. You ask for someone to listen to you. So that becomes part of it also. So what happens is that you start to just feel a little bit aggravated. So there's an aggravation inside your system and you don't consciously know why. Now, all of a sudden your life seems pretty irrelevant and it starts to become irrelevant to you. Their life becomes so relevant because it's relevant to them and relevant to you, right? Because now you want a topic to talk about. You want things to talk about. You want things to do activities together. right? So you start to enjoy the things they enjoy. You start to invest your time. I'm sure a ton of you have helped your partner's businesses grow and invested all your energies in it, because that's how it's done. Rather than investing in your business, you'll invest it there, right? So you're investing all of yourself with that person. Why? Because that's the only way they will pay attention to you. If the topic is about them, if the topic is about their business, if the topic is about their family, the only topic they don't mind you talking about, and they will be invested if it's a bit gossipy. If there's some kind of gossip behind it, if it has nothing to do with the partner or you, the relationship dynamics, but has to do like, oh my God, can you believe these two people got divorced? Oh, they did? I wonder why. Yeah, well, she was a bit da da da. There's a little bit of a gossipy fun, right? Covert narcissists enjoy the gossipy fun, but they still don't invest that much information. They don't invest that much time in it, right? So it's a very thin line. Now, the coolest part about this is how to detect it is start talking about yourself. Just at random, talk about yourself and see how this person reacts. Do they get a little irritated? It's not time yet. It's not the set time. Like they haven't scheduled this. They haven't designed when it's allowed, right? Just start to notice, and just you observing it, okay, you're going to start giving yourself a bit more rights and permission to be more of you, right? To stop investing so much of your time only on their topics, what they have deemed okay, what they're interested to talk about, which will naturally always revolve around them and their lives. Almost all the time around them and their lives. Now, the second point about this not being interested in who you are in your life and all that, unless it's gossipy, unless you're putting someone else down, they like that. Unless you're putting somebody else down, they like that. But if you're talking about you being hurt by someone, okay, you've been hurt by someone and they can't solve it for you, they're not going to work. They're not going to listen, really, basically. Now, I remember personally, they would actually listen and be like, oh, they did that. How could anybody do that to you? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, you do this to me all the time. Like, you do this to me all the time. So why is it not permitted for anyone else to do that to me when this is what you do? Another thing is when you discuss you and his or you and her problem, you're like, I don't think I'm getting enough attention, or I really want this. We're usually very emotional beings, and you'll notice most of us want attention, want to be heard, want to be seen, want to be spoken to. We love communicating, right? But we're not receiving that communication. And so we'll go and be like, you know what? I want us to talk, or I didn't like it when you ignored me. It becomes about the relationship. And that's when they really hate it. That's when all of a sudden it turns around and it all becomes your fault, And they may take some responsibility, but they can't take it all. You'll have to be part of the responsibility. It'll always have to be like, and you two do this. It has to. There's no way, especially covert. An overt narc will never take it, and they'll never even admit there's anything wrong. It's just 100% you. The covert narc knows how to play the game a little bit better. They'll be like, yeah, maybe I did that, but you, blah, 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 right? And because we are so good at not talking about ourselves and how we feel, and what's always important is how they feel, what happens is the attention pours back into them all over again. That's how not interested looks like. It has a few dynamics, but not interested really in you. Your pain about the relationship, your observation about the relationship, your life, how you're feeling, what you're going through, aha moments, sad moments, not that interested. Yeah, makes sense. I
Yeah.
hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so what do you do when you notice your partner is just not that interested in you in your life? I guess what can you do to give back to you? Is it like, oh,
Well,
I have to leave this relationship, or I just need to find another friend to talk to? Like, what can you do to help cushion that?
well, there are several things. Perfect question, Mel. Several things. One of the ones is admitting that this is what is happening. I am more invested in their life than mine. This is a fact. So it's no denial at all. It's a true honesty with self. So yes, that is what I do. And right now, to me, their life seems a lot more entertaining, and I want to communicate. It's really important. So it doesn't even matter what we communicate about. I just need that attention. But now I'm consciously aware, and I can continue doing that. But now I'm consciously aware. So there's no more frustration because I'm choosing to continue to do it. Frustration disappears, my choice, right? Another option is where you can just decide, okay, I've invested so much of my energy into this being. What about me reinvesting it in myself, right? I want to speak more about my day, what I'm feeling. And this person will throw a deaf ear, will not be that interested, will not be that invested. I will not feel their heart in it, right? Fine. Then definitely I'll go find somebody else that appreciates my voice, appreciates my life, is interested in my day, is interested in all this. And really in life, you need one person at least, one person who is invested in you, who to them, you're very interesting, right? And who love to hear you speak. So you look for that person. This person doesn't have to be that. They can never be that, right? They might pretend at some point or try to play it out for some point, but it doesn't last. So you're gonna, or the third option is you can choose to be the person who persists that they listen to you, but knowing that you're gonna have to, they're never gonna do it out of free will. It's going to have to be like a monthly conversation, right? Where you go and be like, well, we're sliding, right? We're not doing this thing anymore, but you're consciously aware that I'm not waiting for this person to run with this. That's not what they do. Okay. But I am fine with voicing, hey, we need to start communicating again. I don't feel I'm being heard again. I'm da 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 da. It's all about conscious awareness. It's a choice. You get to choose. So these are like 3 simple options. And in all of them, I'm choosing. So you can sit with yourself and decide what would make me feel better. Because I remember with my partner, when I decided, no, I want him to listen to me. And so we did schedule times. We had scheduled times, and he was all open. He's like, yes, of course. And we had scheduled times and everything. And of course it would start to slide. But I was consciously aware that when it would slide, even he would tell me, if I slip, just remind me, right? So this was this is why covert narc is very hard to detect, because you think that they're with you, but it's still on your shoulders. You're going to remind me, right? I'm not going to remind myself because this is what you want. It's the thing that you want, right? So I was conscious. So I would consciously be like, well, it's happening, right? And so he would buck it up again. It was happening. But I knew that this would just be the rest of my relationship. I would have to constantly be the one reminding, the one talking, the one bringing back, right? And I was fine with it until I wasn't, of course, right? But I was fine with it for a good year, right? Because it brought me back to who I want to be. So I was receiving what I needed, which is to control this person's attention and make it towards me, right? So when it becomes a choice, it's so different. Because the day you get frustrated is the day you're like, I'm done with this stupid law I put on myself, because you're putting still restrictions. So these are 3 ways that you can play with that. Yeah? And of course, the 4th way is you just leave. Yeah, if you've only dated the guy for a month or 3, walk out. If this is a friend, leave. Like there are other options.
That's perfect. Thank you for talking about this. Is that everything that you have for this question? Can we dive into other ones later on?
Okay,
yeah, we'll just see if people or see if you guys want to like this video. If you're interested in it, you can subscribe. If you want to support what we're doing, we have a Buy Me a Coffee account where you can donate, or you can buy some of our really great products we have on there. We have jewelry, and we have ebooks and e-guides to help you out and support you in your journey and self-discovery. These are some of the earrings that I'm wearing today that are super cute. Watching the video. And then we for sure want you guys to comment. So let's see. So yeah, what are some of let's see, my question, I want to ask you guys, comment below if you feel like your partner is interested in everyone else except for you. Is there anything else you want to add, Rain? I lost my train of thought.
I know. No, that's it.
Everybody.
That's a good question. Like, answer that one.
Rain.
And I think it's important to ask the question, like, do you feel they're more interested in their personal lives and very disinterested in yours? I did want to add something. I do remember this stuck with me for years because I was a bit confused about my second relationship. And I remember this woman who was married for 30 years. And she came to me and she said, I didn't know this was narcissism, but my husband was never interested to ask me about my day. And I just thought, it's just who he is. But once I figured out that he had narcissistic tendencies and he was a narcissist, my entire life made sense. I just brushed it off as he was shy, disinterested, he doesn't really like it. But that always stuck with me because she had published a book and he never once picked it up. Never once picked it up to read it, right? And then she was on stages talking. Never once was he interested to hear or listen to any of the things she did, right? But that was the aftermath. That's after discovering. Then that nugget came in of like, oh, disinterest. Like, not invested, not caring. Like, that's your life, fine. That's the way it is. So yeah, I remembered the whole time. I was like, I want to share that story.
That's excellent. Okay, well, we will see you guys on the next episode.